podcast where books and friendships collide. I'm Becca.
And I'm Keri, and we're two friends who love to talk about books. And today we are talking about chapters 21 through 30 of Powerless by Lauren Roberts.
Yep. If you haven't read it before, no, that's not right.
I mean, you can if you want to go ahead and jump to the spoilers.
Nope. Check our trigger warnings on our show. Nope, that's not it either. If you want to know our trigger warnings for this episode and this book, please check our show notes. We're going to have to keep all of the bad ones in because it's just a fun time.
10 out of 10. Just leave it in. Please leave it in. And with those, we will be spoiling up to chapter 30 of Powerless today. So if you haven't read up to chapter 30, come back when you do.
Exactly. Wow, we're off to a great start this morning.
And it's such a long episode.
What we get for being on time. Okay, so now it's time for our one-sentence summaries for chapters 21 through 30 of Powerless. Mm-hmm. Chapter 21. Paedyn takes to the dance floor with Kit and others and is saved by Kai before screams ruin the moment and her world flips upside down on Kai's shoulder and he leaves to fight.
Chapter 22. An angsty and envious Kit shares with Paedyn how he feels, and she reminds him that he has a choice. But once they're safe, Paedyn goes to find Kai, who is injured and surrounded by blood and gore.
Chapter 23. The trials have begun, and Kai woke up in the Whispers, which are a fantastical forest that is anything but cozy, and learns he has to survive for a week there and try to take as many bans from other contestants as possible before being launched into his first fight with Braxton.
That was a mouthful.
That was a long sentence.
I mean, there was a lot happening. Okay, chapter 24. In the woods, Ace and his illusions cause Paedyn to panic, but not before she discovers the real Ace. But before she is able to deliver the injury to his knee, Paedyn has a potential life-ending injury.
Chapter 25. Paedyn, desperate for water, stumbles, literally, upon Kai's camp, where he calls her Pay for the first time, and she fades into darkness while he tries to help her survive.
Chapter 26. After saving Paedyn's life, Kai continues to play games with her, not without absolutely admiring her and giving us all the banter.
All the banter. Chapter 27. Paedyn and Kai form an alliance, so Paedyn starts to help heal Kai with a painful healing salve before they fight together against a pack of wolves, and then she's healing him again.
Chapter 28. Paedyn and Kai dance again, where they learn more about each other and why Kai saved her life in the first place, but not before being rudely interrupted by Sadie.
Chapter 29. Sadie decides to try and fight, and Kai, surprisingly, saves Paedyn's life before becoming distractingly attractive and proving he's been watching her too.
I love that. Chapter 30. After burying Sadie's body, Kai distracts Paedyn and us readers by being the sweet, calculating boy that cares, and the two curl up together to keep one another warm.
So good.
So good. Well, let's dive into our meet cutes. So, we have met all three of these individuals before, but now we actually got a more one-on-one type introduction to them. So,
I feel like we actually, met them versus got information about them.
Yes. They had more lines, we'll say. But let's start with Ace. So, Ace Elway, he's an illusionist, he's annoying, and he considers himself rare. Gag. I know. I know the illusionist trait is rare, but he...
Is it, though?
I mean... That's what he says.
That's what he says. Can we trust him?
Probably not, but I trust him with that.
Okay.
Anyways, he has a smile as cold as his eyes. He's super pretentious, and he's from the slums, so he's annoying. His power allows him to cast illusions that are so real that it is easy to mistake them for reality, which we saw with the Kit illusion when Paedyn saw him in the water, which we will be talking about later in our quotables. So he did receive an injury to his leg from an arrow from Paedyn, and he's still alive at this time that we know of. It kind of feels like the Hunger Games tributes at this point, like who's alive? Almost. We'll get there.
Almost.
All right, so Braxton is a Brawny, which is the same as Kai's dad. He has trained with Kit and Kai for years. And quick note, Brawny is where they are both strong physically and mentally. I forgot what that was, so I thought I'd remind everyone. So we learned from Kai's POV that Braxton is predictable, which is his weakness, and Kai has his leather, but Braxton is still alive, albeit very injured from his fight with Kai.
Yep.
Again, that we know of, that he's alive. We don't know how bad these injuries really are. However, rest in peace, Sadie Knox here. She is a cloner who can make copies of herself, tons of copies. We learn in the set of chapters that she is a skilled fighter, and she's also dead, thanks to Kai. But in chapter 9, we learned that Sadie and Blair are nothing alike. Even though they grew up together, like their appearance is different, how they carry themselves is completely different. And Sadie's father is the advisor to the king. Big yikes, because the king's son just killed the king's advisor's daughter. So I'm not sure if that will come up later.
You'll know when you know.
I know, yeah. But those are our meet-cutes. Do you have anything to add that you could think of for those three?
Nope, you did great.
Amazing.
Okay, so now we're going to move on to our quotables. And our quotables are where we basically talk about all the things that happen in the book and pull out very intentional quotes as they're talking through the plot. So, Keri, take it away.
All right. So the first two chapters are 21 and 22. I call this Chaos at the Ball. I've just decided that I'm going to name the chapters that I don't know if you noticed that in our outline.
I noticed because the first outline I did it, but I did it to keep myself straight, not so much as like titles. And then last episode, you were like, I call this. I forgot what you called it, but you were like so proud. And I was like, that's actually a really good idea. And I was going to do it today and did not. So
that's okay.
I love that you do it. I think it's a great idea.
It helps me keep it straight. And then I'm like, okay, 21, 22 sounds boring, but the chaos of the ball sounds fun.
I love it. I'm here for it.
All right. Let's pick up where we left off last week at the ball. So Paedyn looks like a dream or a vision, according to a young man at the ball and Mr. Kai. But I wanted to point out a few things that happened during the ball. So number one, Kit is staring at Kai and Paedyn dancing at the ball, holding 2 drinks, which we talked about briefly in our one chapter summaries, how we learned that he's being super envious and of Kai. So this is not helping, because I'm sure he can see there's something between Kai and Paedyn. I keep almost saying Kit. I typed Kit so many times when I met Kai. It's okay.
We'll get through it. By the end of this book, you're not even gonna think about Roman Kit.
I know. It's not even that. I'm just like, that was our male MC last time. Okay. So Paedyn sees the boy from the loot that she stole from with the note that was addressed to her house before all hell breaks loose. So she sees that boy, the same one, and she's like, what the heck is happening? But we'll get into that a little bit later. Okay. So the attack by the Ordinaries at the ball, we know that later that it is a group called the Resistance. So we're going to sit here a moment. Paedyn wants to stay and fight, of course. And Kai says this quote, "Then don't think I won't throw you over my shoulder and carry you out of here myself. Is that what you want?" So for our Outlander fans, I'll find any reason to connect to Outlander. But
I love that.
This is giving Outlander vibes when Jamie's like, you need to come with me or I'm just going to throw you over my shoulder. So very much like Jamie and Claire, Kai also throws Paedyn over his shoulder and is like, you're going to safety. So sorry. I'm here for it. And if that was intentional, 10 out of 10, Lloyd Roberts. Thank you.
Okay.
All right. So the Ordinaries, we learned, made homemade bombs. And one of the Ordinaries, he's in a mask. He actually recognizes her. So this is a little sketchy. Something to keep an eye out on.
He recognizes her?
Or he looks like he recognizes her. You can see, I think the quote is, she notices there's recognition in his eyes.
Okay.
It was recognize. If I had my Kindle, I would.
Okay, that's
Double
fine.
check. So Kit really wants to stay, obviously, but Kai makes him leave because he says he needs him alive. He says, "For the kingdom, for me," which I thought was really sweet. Brotherly love. He like played into that, even though we know that Kit really needs to be safe for the future.
So I want to point out here that there's like Kai says that, and then Kai runs away and runs into the fight. And we are getting this from Paedyn's POV, and there's this quote, and it says, "And then he's running back into the thick of the fight, dozens of powers flicking over his skin before he settles on one, fire." And what a slap in the face to Kit, because that's his power.
Ooh.
So Kai chose to use his power to fight, even though he was begging Kit to sit on the sidelines.
Dang, I didn't even notice that.
And I don't know if that was intentional, right? I don't know if that was like, hey, I'm definitely gonna I'm gonna do this in front of Kit because of X, Y, and Z. Like, I don't think it was that, but I do think I mean, that was a very intentional line by Lauren Roberts. So I think that's like a very interesting, like, that's the one he chose to like settle on and use.
I didn't even catch that. What a good call out. All right, so post-attack, they're in the safe room and we learn about Kai's injury. So when they all go to the safe room, they're in a safe room with the king, the queen, Kit, and many others. Most of the contestants, I believe. Kit is very stressed. He is pacing. He is mad. And we learn that he's like super envious. And Paedyn gets him to open up. And he says, "I don't like people fighting my battles." And then I love this quote when Paedyn realizes Kit's true feelings here. Like when she realizes his eyes are like green with envy. She thinks, wait, I don't think she said that. Yes, she's thinking, wishes he could earn his father's favor through brawn, not brains. Wishes he could be the hero rather than the one the hero is protecting. So we get this, like, again, inner battle of, like, the brothers being put in their position of, like, this is what they're supposed to do, and then really wanting the other's responsibility, kind of. We don't know about Kai.
This is such an interesting quote for me, and I highlighted it too, but we have like wishes he could be the hero rather than the one the hero is protecting, and Paedyn is using hero to describe Kai.
That's true.
Like, and I talk about this a lot later, but like Kai's inner monologue is so different than like how I feel like a lot of other people see him. But like already Paedyn is like, he's a hero.
Which is so strange. She like hates him and like realizes he's a murderer. So that's interesting. Call out. All right, so back to the resistance. We get to learn a little bit about them and from Kit. So those are the group that attacked, and they have been fighting against the king for years because of what has been done to them. But this group of ordinaries has been a secret and growing faster and stronger. So they apparently are spread out all throughout the city, and Kit suspects that they have partnered with elites who don't like the king, including these 4 groups. The Fatals, the Silencers, the Mind Readers, and the Controllers, who were all banished alongside the Ordinaries. I would love to know why. I don't know why. Do you know why?
I'll talk about that in our magical moments. Okay. But so it's not 4 groups. It's the Fatals. So like there's 3 powers that are considered part of the Fatals.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So they're like, that's a group.
Yes. The Fatals is a group of powers.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay. That makes more sense.
It's like describing, like, remember we have mundanes, we have defensives, we have offensives. It's like that.
Gotcha. That makes more sense because I was like, I don't know what Fatals, but but Paedyn tries to get Kit to understand that he has a choice in what he knows and what he thinks about the Ordinaries, and I love that she's like trying to like let him know that there's another ideology to have, not just what he's been told his whole life. And she thinks that she knows where to find them thanks to the note she stole. So it's all coming together. Like, she knows that she could find the resistance and she wants to find them. So I'm really excited to see where that goes.
Yeah, that's very interesting. That is not what I pulled out of this section.
What did you pull out?
I pulled out, so remember before I told you to keep an eye on when the word powerless is used and when the word reckless is used. So we have a reckless note here, and it says, quote, "Something about this boy brings out a recklessness in me, a need to show him how wrong he is, how twisted his kingdom is." This is talking about Kit.
Interesting.
Yes. So again, for our listeners who don't know, I have already read Powerless through. Keri has not. And the second book is Reckless. So we're keeping an eye out on like when Powerless and Reckless are added. There was a Powerless in here that I could not find. So there's definitely one that we missed in this stretch of chapters. But It's interesting that Reckless is like, in this case, it's being it's related to Kit so closely.
Interesting. Mm-hmm. I wonder what the next book will be about. It's called Reckless. I'll know when I know.
I don't know. I mean, I haven't read the second book yet. It's not out yet, so.
I mean, some people are finding it.
There's like the first 10 chapters out.
No, like some stores are putting it out early. Yeah.
That's like 2 weeks.
Yeah, like last week I saw a few TikToks. I feel bad for the author. Like,
that's horrible.
Mm-hmm. I would not buy it. If I saw it, I'd wait.
If it's like the day before.
Yeah, if it's the day before, that's different. But at like weeks.
I'm not even going to say the day before because I feel like that hurts their like publishing date sale. So we're going to stick with on the nose.
So Paedyn goes back to the ballroom and she finds Kai there and he's slumping and he's drenched in blood and she thinks he's hurt. And more importantly, why do I care? Mm-hmm. So she's getting it real bad already. I mean, I think she already has, but like it's getting clearer and clearer as these chapters progress. So we learned that there were only about a dozen of ordinaries that actually came to attack, so their mission is unclear, and some also got away and escaped, so we love that. Kai ends up healing himself, but he says, "Promise me you'll stay alive long enough to stab me in the back," talking about the trials. So cute.
Yep.
So cute. But here we go. Chapters 23 through 25. The trials begin. I'm gonna go back into my named sections.
I am not gonna have named sections.
That's okay.
I love that you have them.
Alright, so the trials have begun and all contestants wake up from a drugged sleep. So where they are still in the clothes that they actually have slept in the night before. So unfortunately, that means some have less clothes on than others.
Yes.
So they are now in a place called the Whispers. So Kai describes this as not a whimsical forest, but how it is a frightening place according to Kai, who has frequented here. So he's familiar with this forest. We learn that deadly beasts and deadlier plants live in this forest, and they will also be there for a week. I wanted to point out these deadly beasts and deadlier plants because I'm hoping that's how some of the contestants die. So Paedyn doesn't have to kill them. Kind of like with the berries in the Hunger Games.
Okay.
Anyways, we learn about sites who are filming the contestants and are projecting it to the viewers. And everyone gets these like poem-like instructions. And Kai realizes how much they want them to fight, the contestants to fight, because the goal is to get as many bands as possible. Let's get into the trials. So I wanted to point out really quick that we learned that Kai was afraid of heights. He says, "I've conquered my fear of heights, but just because a fear is conquered doesn't mean it's enjoyable to be confronted with again and again." What a relatable quote. Completely relatable. So relatable.
I feel that on a spiritual level.
I was surprised you didn't, or maybe you did highlight it, but
I mean, yeah, I have not conquered my fears yet, so that's a hopeful quote, not a not a relatable quote for me just yet.
Well, I thought it was just like encouraging.
Very
Anyways.
encouraging.
So as Kai is supposed to be figuring out what to do, what his strategy is, all that, Kai is thinking about Paedyn. So when he's supposed to be thinking about how he's supposed to survive this, he's thinking she's confusing, captivating, and we're completely wrong for each other in all the right ways. She's a flame and I'm going to get burned. An ocean and I'm going to drown. I'm like, homeboy, you're supposed to be focusing on not dying. But okay.
So, okay, yes, but we get this from both Paedyn and Kai that they're bored. Like, this is a boring task for them. And you have to think Kai has been in the Whispers multiple times. Like, he's very familiar. He's like, this is not a big deal. Like, I can kill just about anybody. Like, he's bored. And for, like, boredom is, like, the best, like, boredom breeds creativity. So, like, it makes sense that his mind is going to go to Paedyn because he's just, like, chilling, trying to... This is not a fight for survival. This is okay, I have to, like... This is a resigned, guess I'm going to be out here for a week. This sucks.
That's a good way to think about it. I guess I was thinking about it from my perspective because I'd be, like, stressed that I'd be having to, like, survive. I wouldn't be thinking of anything else.
That's true. That's true.
But moving on, Braxton shows up and gives Kai a really good fight. Kai ultimately wins, but not before Kai gets burned from the fire. So Paedyn goes back to the basics when we're jumping to her point of view and knows that she needs to find water, start a fire, find food. Then, like we were just talking about with Kai, her thoughts completely run wild and she thinks of Kai. And she says, and the cocky bastard I hate for not completely hating. So cute. She calls him that so much.
I love your description of this. Is so cute.
It is so cute.
Is it so cute though? Okay.
Yeah. In her own way.
In her own way. Okay. Yeah. I'll give it to you.
Thanks. All right, so she finds water, her first thing that she wanted to find, but she sees a figure that's not moving. And we get this quote: "The figure with the same glassy green eyes are the king, staring unseeingly at the blue sky. A strangled scream rips from my throat, sending birds scattering out from the trees around me. Kit, he's dead." The way I sat up in bed because I thought he was actually dead. And it had me stressed. And then I realized it was Ace. And then I still forgot that, like, Ace was an illusionist until we got to the part where we see a bunch of little Paedyns. But I'm gonna pause here because I'm wondering if this is foreshadowing of what's to come with Kit. But I know you can't tell me. I'm just throwing that thought out there.
Okay.
But
you'll know when you know.
I know. But Ace, like I said, also shows her an illusion of her younger self. And she says, "I'm completely surrounded by pleading Paedyns. They step forward, begging me to help them as they reach out, trying to grab a hold of me." So I know we have been comparing this book a lot to The Hunger Games, but here's one addition that I absolutely loved. This part was giving Fever Dream, which we all know Suzanne Collins loves. That, like,
she loves a good fever dream.
She does. And I appreciated this nod in a fresh way with, like, Ace being the illusionist and, like, Paedyn's really freaking out and starting to panic. And, like, I just, if she meant to do that, well done. If she didn't, still well done. Loved it.
So that one's so interesting to me because Ace produces illusions for the person, right? How would he know what little Paedyn looked like?
See, that's what I don't understand. And that's why I'm concerned about Kit.
Okay. Why? I'm not connecting those.
Because how has he seen Kit, like, look that way? Or, like, how is he creating these illusions?
Well, that makes sense because, like, I mean, he's seen Kit.
Yeah,
So,
that's
like,
true.
I feel like if you've seen something, you can manipulate it. Because, like, I feel like that's not as much of a stretch, but, like, he would have no idea what little Paedyn looked like. Like, he's never seen little Paedyn to be able to, like, produce an illusion like that. So
Yeah,
I wonder if it's, like, something, like, maybe he goes into their mind and finds something.
maybe. I don't know. That's why I'm like, I'd love to learn more about this illusionist. This is why I think it's rare. It's because they don't really know how to fight against it.
I'll give it to you. I'll give that one to you.
Thanks.
Yeah, that was a really good point.
Thanks.
Good job. 10 out of 10.
Pat myself on the back here. But ultimately, the fight with Ace gets her severely injured and she stumbles away, but she keeps saying that she will not die. And what book is that from, where I will not die today?
It's Fourth Wing.
Fourth Wing. Okay, thank you.
Violet says it all the time.
That's what... Okay. Okay. So when she's saying she will not die, she stumbles into Kai's camp as she is headed towards the creek, finally finding real water. So she first tries to put on this show that she's completely fine, but he realizes, like, he is concerned as she, like, goes to faint, of course. And he's trying to keep her awake. And she notices, quote, his cool mask has cracked, shattered, splintered into a million pieces as he lifts my head off the ground, pulling me toward him to search my face with wide gray eyes. So, like you said in the chapter summaries, he calls her by her name, specifically Pei, for the first time. I think this will be one of his many nicknames for her, including Vicious Little Thing and Darling.
Okay.
10 out of 10 love.
I love Darling.
I don't.
You don't?
I hate it, actually.
Really?
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe it's just because, like, I grew up in Florida and only creepy old men said Darling.
I think of, like, the Hallmark movies of, like, the city girl comes to, like, the southern, like, farm, and she gets called Darlin by the ranch hand.
Nope, still don't like it.
Really?
No.
Interesting. Okay.
I knew that was going to come up eventually.
Okay.
But
I don't think Paedyn likes it, that makes you feel any better. I like it as a reader, but I don't think I would like it as Paedyn.
Yeah. Could see that. Anyways. So she's delirious, obviously, because she lost a lot of blood. And he says, remind me to make you smile like that again when you aren't dying. And I have all the time in the world to memorize it. Just his quotes. I could have quoted so much from, like, chapter 25 on. We're just going to go ahead and say that.
I'm pretty sure that's why. Okay, so I'm going to be summarizing chapter 26 through 30. And I just have to say, this one's a doozy for our listeners. There's so much that happens. And the majority of my quotes come from Kai. And the amount of effort and time that I took to actually pick out the quotes that I thought not just I loved, but moved the story along was very difficult to identify between, do I just really love this quote and want to talk about it? Or does this actually prove a point that is important to the story? So we have a mixture because there were some quotes I just could not let go.
Mm-hmm.
But this is going to be a doozy. So
let's get into it. Let's get down to business.
Okay, so we pick up in chapter 26. I don't have a fancy title like Keri does. Next week, be prepared. Be prepared. But so I just have chapter 26, and this literally was just a break for me so I could put my outline stuff under where Keri was gonna put her outline stuff. So if I had to summarize all of this in a title, it would be, I would say, just the trials. Just the first trial. Yeah. Or the whispers. No, I
Ooh.
like the trials.
I like the whispers.
Yeah, but it's not really about the forest.
Mm.
It kind of is. We'll go with the
Yeah.
whispers.
They meet a
Okay.
deadly beast.
Yes, they do. That's right. Okay. Whew. We got to get into it.
Let's do it.
So we pick up on Kai's POV, and Paedyn is dying, and Kai is panicking, and he's furious, and he's like going on his inner monologue, which we all know we have done with our significant others when they do something silly, and it's just like, why are you doing this? You're so stubborn. Liam, I love you. I never think that about you. But anyways, he knew something was wrong when she wasn't playing with him, and that made him worried. So we get this quote. But when she crumbled, something inside of me cracked. The sight of her so weak, so vulnerable, so unlike herself was enough to shatter a piece of the soul I'd forgotten I'd had.
Mm-hmm.
So not only is he like starting to like fall for her, but she is like opening up his self-awareness that like he's realizing like the walls can come down if he wants them to.
And I just realized.
Okay.
You said that quote was in something inside of me cracked, and then Mike wrote that she realized his cool mask has cracked. So that
it's literally a parallel. So we get the inside of me cracked, and then it shattered a piece of my soul. And yours is his cool mask has cracked, shattered, splintered into a million pieces.
Oh, such beautiful writing.
Beautiful. Okay, so he realizes she needs water, and when looking for the canteen, his fingers graze the healing salve, and he's hysterical. He like starts laughing and cannot stop because he's like, "Oh my gosh, like what are the chances?" But she uses the healing salve on her, and she straight up just like slaps him in the face because it hurts so bad. Hilarious. Fighting even in the death. Hilarious. And they begin to talk, and Kai admits a few things. You know what? I'm going to change this into the title is going to be Kai's self-awareness.
I love that.
So that's going to be our title for all chapters 26 through 30.
Perfect.
Okay, so like I said earlier, I'm going to try really hard not to just quote this entire part because I definitely could have. It was hard to find some quotes to just prove these points. So we're gonna bear with me. Okay. First, he admits that killing is not a hobby for him. He literally says this point blank. And then we get this quote. What I do, what I've done, has a purpose, a reason. I'm still a monster, just not the kind that loves the hateful things I do. So this is, again, self-awareness. This is what he thinks about himself. He thinks he's a monster, which, first of all, I feel like monsters have to love the things they do, but he doesn't. He thinks they're hateful. He acknowledges that they're hateful. And what's sad for me here, and I identify with Kai so much, and I think that's why I like him so much as like a MMC, because he's just like, I identify with him so much, but he identifies himself and his self-worth so much to like his job, his role versus like who he is internally. So like that's what he thinks of himself, because it's what I do has a purpose and a reason, you know?
Yeah.
So definitely feel that, Kai. Feel it. Okay. And then second thing we learn about him is that he likes to deflect when things get difficult. So
big time.
Don't we all? Paedyn likes to do it too. So great
Paedyn
time.
also realized that he likes to deflect.
Yes. Yes.
In this part.
Number 3, we learned that he cares. So, quote, all I know is that I have this urge to protect her, to be with her, tease her, touch her.
Oof.
Say less.
Say less.
He stitches her up, takes care of her, uses all the healing salve on her without hesitation, cares that she's cold next to the fire. Like,
so good.
You have a quote here, and I'll let you read the quote.
So this is when he like is saying her name, and he's like, and in that moment I realized that I wanted to say it, wanted her to hear it from my lips, realized that if she died I would never again get to look into those blue eyes and utter those 2 syllables that have been a constant in my mind. I could have quoted like this whole chapter 26 through 30.
I love it.
But we held back.
Did we? We'll see. We'll see. Okay. So, going back to like he cares that she's cold next to the fire, which leads right into he doesn't think highly of himself at all. And this is where my quote fits in. So my quote says, "She shakes again, making me wish I had a blanket to offer her, had something to offer her. The truth of that thought hits me like a blow to the gut. I have nothing to offer her." And then like in the next paragraph, he says, "Maybe I could be a little bit more like Kit with his heart on his sleeve and happiness on display. Maybe the future enforcer could break down a few walls, become a man who is more than the masks he wears around his people." My heart. Just like I was reading that and I was like he's so self-aware. He knows that he has masks. He knows that Paedyn is starting to tear them down. He cares. He doesn't think highly of himself because he says, "I have nothing to offer her." Dude, you're a freaking prince. You have much to offer her. And most girls, they don't really care. They just want to feel like you love them and they're the center of your world, which is basically what Paedyn is for Kai at this point in time.
Yes.
So, bro, if I had anything to say to you, you have so much to offer her. And he can protect her. Like, anyways, I'm not going to go down that. We're going to cut me off.
And then, okay, so this quote we're adding here because Becca put it here and then highlighted it in my colors because she knew I would highlight it and she was correct.
Yes.
And I mean, who wouldn't? It was my favorite quote for this part. It is, "If I am to be her enemy, I want it to be because she loathes herself for wanting me." We could just tie that up. All right, Kai.
That's it.
We got our hearts. That's it.
I think, and I don't know if you noticed this, but how Kai reacts and like starts interacting with Paedyn after this quote is so different compared to how he was reacting before. So like this is definitely a turning point for Kai. Even, and we'll talk about this in the next couple chapters. This is literally at the end of chapter 26. So you literally have 4 more chapters to go. But like we'll talk about this later. But like this is his like, okay, like let's see where this goes. So
let's see.
Great times. Okay, so chapter 27 comes. Paedyn actually wakes up. She's shocked to find her band still in place, and Paedyn is upset that Kai doesn't say her name when he's talking to her.
Especially when he wanted to say it more and more.
Yes. Interesting. And then they form an alliance.
Okay, so I have to interject right here because I love this scene when they are slapping each other because of mosquitoes. That part had me laughing. And she says, "Laughter is bubbling out of me. I can't seem to stop, can't seem to control my cackling. The thought of us hitting each other like children in the middle of a deadly trial is extremely comical." I thought that was adorable.
Hilarious.
So cute.
Just amazing.
They're adorable.
Okay, so she starts making a salve to cover his burns because he, without hesitation, uses all the healing salve on her. And when she starts putting it on, they start another question and answer banter again. So we've already gotten one. We got it when they were dancing. Here we have a second one, right? We get some history into what Kai's life was like before, like growing up in the palace. So number 1, it was cold with prying eyes, but Kit and Kai made it a home together. Number 2, he was friends with the servants and ditched balls. Like, he was probably so fun as a kid. Like, if we're being honest, like, to be friends with servants and, like, for a prince to, like, willingly out loud say, like, he was friends with servants, even though this is a vulnerable time, like, that I think goes a lot to show, like, his character, right? Number 3, they pulled pranks on Gale all the time. Gale still loves him, so...
Oh, yeah.
And number 4, he trained a lot, and we learn a lot about what training looked like for him. So he endured training, and the king's methods were severe. And we get this quote. "He showed me what it was to torture, what it was to be tortured. He taught me everything I know, trained me both mentally and physically until he was satisfied with what he created." And this reminded me so much of in the Avengers with Gamora and Nebula, and how like Thanos made them what they were. Like this could have almost been, it wasn't a direct quote, but this is like very similar vibes with like Gamora, and she's like, I'm a killer. Like I am my father's weapon. Like he made me into who I am. And this is definitely like what Kai is feeling like here too. Then we get this next quote that says, I'm not the heir, I'm the expendable son, the future enforcer that my father has molded and sent on mission for years. So my thought here, and this is an interesting point, is like, again, Kai's inner monologue and what he thinks of himself versus what's actually happening, is if he's been sent on missions for years, he's not the future enforcer. He's the current enforcer who is like doing the king's bidding right now and has been for years. So like he thinks that there's this like future, which makes me think he wants to hold on to what has been like his life right now, like how he's not that person yet and how he doesn't want to be that person yet. But he already like is the current enforcer. And what does that look like in the fact that that is happening right now? We get two more quotes from this part, at least from me. It says, quote, Kit will make a great king and I will be his killer. And like such a, like, I don't know, that's my heart just
so
like
much to unpack there,
right? So and then lastly we get this quote, I never wanted this, never wanted to be what I am today, but monsters are made, not born, and I had no choice in the matter. I have no choice in the matter. I won't deny what I am. I'll do what I must for my kingdom, for my king. And Paedyn dwells on this statement a lot, that like she notices he's gone through all the stages of grief. And I laughed because Keri and I were talking yesterday about the different stages of grief. And he's literally gone through all the stages to the acceptance stage. Like he's accepted, this is who I am. This is what I was made. Like, I'm not sad about this. Like, I'm not angry. I've accepted it. And like, we're going to move forward from here. So just very interesting.
Yeah. I also, in this like conversation, he mentions here how his mom is, and he says, everything I needed as a boy. She's been one of the only constants in my life, a source of kindness and caring. So he called out that like that's who she is and what type of person she is.
Yeah. And I think that goes to show like the society like as well, because Paedyn comes back and she's like, but she let the king do all this to you. And Kai's like, well, she didn't really have a choice. So like obviously the king's word is law. Not that we ever doubted that, but I think like this is an even further confirmation that the king's word is law.
Oh yeah.
Okay. So to break up this vulnerable moment, a pack of wolves come and they have to fight them off. It's amazing that in their time of vulnerability, in this question and answer banter, they struggle to trust each other. They struggle to share things with each other. They do, and they start to build that relationship, but that's hard for them. But when they fight together, they trust each other so like easily. Like Kai tells Paedyn to duck and she does it without hesitation. He's like, duck. And she does, and he throws the throwing star. Like seamless teamwork. And Kai also trusts her to take care of herself, which I thought was just beautiful. Very sweet, very like, I love it. So they watch each other's backs, they fight their own battles, and it's beautiful. So once the fight is over, Pae admits they make a great team. So sweet. But counters that she is not one of his soldiers. And Kai admits, my soldiers don't mean anything to me. They are expendable and easy to replace. His chest heaves, his eyes locked with mine. So yes, Gray, you aren't one of my soldiers.
I love this quote.
Love it.
You're so cute.
Great times, great times. I have nothing else to add.
Nope.
Okay, so 3 days later, Kai and Paedyn are still alive. They've been splitting up, trying to cover more ground. It's not been working. They haven't run into any other contestants. Kai cannot breathe since Paedyn, like they had this exchange before, and I didn't talk about it, but they had this exchange before, and she like put her hands on him to heal him, and he said, anyways, we're not going to get into that. Go read the book if you don't know what I'm talking about. Paedyn is a mess.
Oh, so intense. Go read the book if you want to know what I'm talking about. I love it because why would they be less? If you're listening to this and you haven't read the book, what are you doing?
Yes, what are you doing?
Go get out of here. Go read it.
Okay. So Paedyn is a mess when she comes back on the third day, and Kai notices, and Kai knows. I've learned the hard way that those are words you never want to hear a woman say to you, and it's obvious that she is anything but fine.
Yes. I highlighted that too.
You did. Hilarious.
He knows.
Yes, he does. And he's just like sitting there, like letting her like bubble over, and he's just like basking in her beauty, having a great time. And he's so confused why he's doing this. He's like, why do I care? Why is this what I'm noticing? All those things.
Mm-hmm.
So then he makes her dance. She asks him a question, and he says, we haven't finished our dance yet. They dance High School Musical style. I love to know what music they have going on in their heads. And they start their question for a question. Buckle up, listeners, because these questions for questions are over 3 chapters. We have 14 questions for questions, so we're going to go through them pretty quickly.
Let's do it.
Question number 1. Why didn't you take my leather and leave? Answer, which is also a question. Is it so shocking that I don't want you to die? Answer to that, yes, I thought you'd be more like your father. So I'll call all of that question 1.
Yeah.
Even though it's technically multiple questions. Okay, question 2 from Kai. Is that why you hate me? Answer, I don't hate you. Very quickly. Question 3 from Kai. You don't hate me? So every thread on my life is a declaration of love then? Answer, I don't hate you. That doesn't mean I don't despise you. I'm pretty sure hate and despise are like synonyms. So
close, I think.
0 points for Paedyn on that one. Question 4. Paedyn, would you have helped one of the others? Answer, darling, I doubt that the sight of someone dying would affect me as much as you do alive and well. I highlighted that in my notes. I said, well then. Question 5. Kai, why did you rob me and loot that day? Answer, you fit a description. Cocky and full of coins. My favorite targets. Question 6. Paedyn, you don't think I could steal from you again without you noticing? Answer, I think that I notice everything you do. Oof. So no. Okay. Question 7 from Paedyn. Is that a challenge, Azur? And Kai answers, it's a fact, Gray. So this is so interesting, and I want to highlight this here because he is not answering her question directly, right? So the first question 6 is, you don't think I could steal from you again without you noticing? His answer is, I notice everything you do. So technically he says, so no, but his answer is not answering that question. It's, no. Hey, I'm letting you in on, I notice everything you do. Mm-hmm. And then question 7 is that a challenge? She is responding to his answer, which was no. He is not answering that question. He is confirming. His answer is, it's a fact, Gray. He's not answering like the no part of like, he's not confirming the no, I'm not going to notice. He's confirming the I notice everything you do, and that's a fact. And I'm trying to drill it into your head in a way that's not
like outright, I love you, I love you, I love you, I love you.
Exactly. Which I loved.
He's so cute.
I know. And then she shows that she stole Braxton's bracelet, to which he responds, quote, I'm impressed. I'm mostly shocked that I didn't notice with how closely I pay attention to you. Okay. This has been 3 times in a row that he has said, I notice you, I notice you, I notice you. Mm-hmm. And she's just like, it's going over her head. She's like loving the chase, loving the challenge, and she's like it is not landing for her. It will later, but it's not landing for her.
Nope.
Okay, so then we get to question 8, way out of left field. Question 8 from Paedyn. what's your favorite color? And his answer is blue. Why? Because he's been falling in love with her eyes. And we get this quote that I literally read this and I started tearing up when I read this because it was just so multifaceted that I just loved it. And it says, I'm not going to cry. Not until I looked into a pair of ocean blue eyes and realized that perhaps drowning was a beautiful thing. Not until I looked into a pair of fiery blue eyes and realized that perhaps burning was a painless thing. Not until I looked into a pair of sky blue eyes and realized that perhaps falling was a peaceful thing. I'd never thought about what my favorite color was before because I hadn't seen one that was worthy of the title until now, that is.
Ugh, he's so cute.
Oh my goodness.
He's got it so bad.
Kai is like slowly coming up on my book boyfriends. Like I read it and I liked him, but like we're slowly he's coming up. I don't know what number he's at. As he should.
Because he's so cute. He's got it so bad.
I love it. I live for his inner monologues.
Me
I love
too.
Paedyn, but
yeah,
like
but
Kai's
I'm like
chapters,
let's get to Kai.
Okay, question 9 from Kai. What's your favorite color? And Paedyn says, I don't have one. Okay, I just want to say, let's
we
back
all
up
know
for a
it's
second.
gray.
Is gray a color?
I think so.
I don't, like, when you think of a favorite color, gray is not a color that I would think of. So I think she's kind of saying it's gray without saying it's gray. Also,
Maybe.
can we talk about how our morally gray main character has gray eyes? Well done, Lauren Roberts. Well done.
She could still be silver because
that's true.
She's the silver savior. Her hair's silver.
That's true. That's
silver
true.
Dress.
You're right. Never mind. Don't listen to me.
No, it's good.
Okay, question 10 from Paedyn. What's your favorite food? And his answer is lemon tarts. Question 11 is from Kai. Have you been looking at my mouth, Gray? And answer. We don't really get an answer to this, but this question is in response of her saying how she's talking about how it's definitely not rabbit because his mouth twists when he eats it. So like that prompts the question. So the answer to this question is obviously yes, even though we don't get a confirmation from Paedyn.
No, but it's definitely yes.
Definitely yes. Question 12 from Kai. What's your favorite food? Answer, butterscotch. Girl after my own heart. Girl, I love some butterscotch.
Interesting.
Question 13 from Kai. Tell me about your split lip. Answer, it was a gift from your Imperials. Then they just sway and dance in the starlight.
How they didn't just fall in love right there together.
Right? This is so wholesome, so sweet and lovely. It's intimate in a vulnerable way. Like, it's just beautiful. And I just was here for it. Okay, question 14. This is our last question for now. And it's from Kai, and it says, he asks, why didn't you shoot me? And her answer is, just because I was doomed for death doesn't mean I wanted to damn you as well. Like, so sweet. They're definitely not enemies anymore. I don't know what they are. They're not lovers yet, but they're not enemies.
They're alliances right now.
Yes. Okay, so Paedyn pulls away from Kai, and that turns his thoughts into overdrive. And he, for being a cocky bastard, is so insecure.
He is. Cocky is definitely his, like, outer layer.
Yes.
That hides those inner insecurities.
Yes. So he starts thinking about how he's not like worthy of her, and he shouldn't care about Paedyn, and he does. And then we get interrupted by Sadie, which perfect timing. Love it. Lauren Roberts does a very good job of reminding us we're in the trials, like allowing us to forget that we're in the trials, but then reminding us at very opportune times. Mm-hmm. So like them dancing and swaying is a very like I said, intimate moment, but like we needed to be brought back down to earth. We needed to be reminded again that we're in the trials, and it was just so beautifully done.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so we have the fight with Sadie, and it's very interesting because I'm not going to cover the whole thing. I just want to pull out some very interesting pieces of information that we glean from it. So number 1, Kai was so distracted that he did not feel Sadie creep up on them. This is the second time this has happened so far. The first one was with the site, when the site was like recording them taking care of each other.
Mm-hmm.
Number 2, Paedyn knows Kai better already than Sadie. Pei sees the masks that Kai slips on and off, but Sadie doesn't when they're like having it out, like when Sadie has her knife to Paedyn's neck. Very interesting. Even though Sadie and Kai grew up together, but Paedyn already knows him better. Number 3, Sadie is a decently good person. She doesn't want to kill Paedyn, but she will, but she doesn't want to, which I think is a big difference, you know?
Yeah.
Number 4, Kai will kill for Paedyn. Which every time I think about that, he kills Sadie with like little to no remorse. Like I went back and read through that specific scene, like from the time he like puts like the sword shows up until like Kai goes away. Like he stabs Sadie and kills her, and like basically like pushes her off to the side and like doesn't even think about her until Paedyn's okay. Like it's like a very second, like, I'm doing this for Paedyn. But all I can think about is have you seen Inside Out?
Yeah.
Okay, so you know the part where they're like in like the imagination, and the imaginary boyfriend, and he's like he's on the conveyor belt, and he's like, I'd die for Riley.
Oh,
and he lives in Canada. Like that's all I can think about is like this is Kai. He's like, I'd kill for Riley.
That's so funny.
For Paedyn. Anyways. Okay, and number 5, the gentleness that Kai uses with Pei when Pei goes into shock. This is important because not so much that he's gentle with her, we've already gotten that aspect, but he knows just what he needs. He knows just what she needs in that moment. He's distracting her. This goes to show that he's probably gone through this himself. So like he knows exactly what she needs. And like this must be a tactic he uses for himself, which just like broke my heart. I think the first time reading this through, I loved Kai so much for the banter. And this time reading it through, I love Kai so much for like who he is as a person. Just like, and thinking through all the things he had to go through.
Yeah.
So like our listeners who are not YouTube watchers, my eyes are like tearing up as I'm thinking about this. Cause like, he's such a dynamic character and I just love him so much.
Yeah.
Okay, so when Kai comes back after taking care of Sadie, Pei is shocked to see that Kai not only buried Sadie, but gave her a grave where he laid flowers, which I think goes to show so much into his character. They talk, and Paedyn admits that she almost died today and feels like she's in over her head.
And when, sorry, I was just thinking about that part again. That was really sweet. I pulled out this quote where Kai says, "And I'll save your life again and again, aimlessly hoping you allow me to stay in it." Little chills. So sweet. I love that part.
So sweet. Okay. So then Kai makes her keep Braxton's leather, which is huge because this is how like you're gonna win the trials, right? This first trial, this is how you're gonna win. He has to beg her to keep it. He doesn't really have to beg her, but she makes him beg. And she mocks him that please isn't something he says too often, to which Kai responds, quote, "Thanks to you, I have a feeling I'm going to grow very familiar with it. Few have the power to make me plead." I'm done. Say
Go
less.
Get him up, because I'm a puddle.
Love that. That's going to be our new thing. That 10 out of 10.
Go get him off, because I'm a puddle.
Oh, okay. That was amazing. Okay, and this last part is so intimate, and I want to talk about this beautiful way that Lauren Roberts brings us along the story of this young love, right? So she lets us in on these intimate moments. And if I sit and think about it, in all reality, they're cuddling by the fire. Like, that's what's happening, is they're cuddling by the fire. But like, she doesn't just say that. She walks us through the question and answer of both of their actions, of the vulnerable way that you have to let somebody in, and she walks us through their thought process. And it's a vulnerable moment shared by both characters, and Lauren Roberts does such a good job of like, I don't even want to like talk about this. Like, I didn't even want to go through it because I don't feel like I could summarize this part and do it justice by the way that she does. She summarizes it so well.
Yeah. And very like you said, question and answer. Like, is this okay? Yes. Like, they were just like entering a new territory, and we're being very cautious and very like accepting, okay, if this is not okay for you, that's okay.
Yep.
But it was, and they were so cute. Go get your mop.
Because we're puddles.
We're gonna need a couple mops.
Yes, we are. Okay, so one of the last things I want to highlight in these chapters is we get so many different tropes and subtropes in just this stretch of chapters, which I think is like so fun for me, that like we're getting so many of them. So I just wanted to highlight, I thought of 6.
Yeah, you just covered all of
chapters. So the first one is obviously enemies saving each other's lives. We get the "who did this to you," which I am highlighted a sucker for.
I highlighted that in my Kindle, and when I saw you covered it, I was like, thank goodness, because we were going to talk about that. Because he literally said, "Who did this to you?"
Twice.
Yeah. Oof. Okay.
That one gets me every time. I tell myself I don't love cliches, and then every time it's like, "Who did this to you?" And I'm like, "Oh my gosh, who did this to you? You better tell him."
I love it.
Number 3, we get the it's just me. So like when he comes back and it's like a shadow, and like after Sadie, and it's a shadow, and she turns around and has her knife to his throat, he's just like, "Easy, it's just me." And it's like, oh. Okay. Number 4, subtrope, the tortured MMC. Every time. Number 5, he falls first, and he's falling hard.
Oh, he fell hard. Chapter 3.
Chapter 3. Oh, I guess that is when they met. So yeah, you're right. And then chapter 6, don't look. So like don't look at whatever you're looking at. Look at me. Like, I love that. So like Kai says, quote, like the quote is, "Don't look at her, look at me." And all I can think of is that TikTok sound of like the Ashley, look at me. That's all I can think of. But
the fact that I have like constant TikTok sounds when I'm reading and stuff, it's bad.
That's a bad thing. Yes. So
we need to get off TikTok.
We do. So anyways, all of those subtropes are my favorite, and I love them so much. And I love that like we get so many of them in this story. So beautiful time. And that's all for our quotables today. Only an hour later.
It's fine. It was worth it. But let's go into our tomes and tonics before we dive into magical moments. So this is where we get to pick the drinks that we think the characters in our Meet Cute section would drink. So we're going to start with Ace. Do you want to go first, or you want me to go first?
I will go first.
Okay.
So Ace. So Liam and I are watching Suits for the first time. And we just started season 2, so we're like not super far. But I think of Ace as Louis Litt. I was like sitting and thinking about this, and I was like, okay, this is Louis Litt. What would Louis Litt order?
Interesting.
And I Googled pretentious coffee orders and ended up on a subreddit that I went down a rabbit hole, let me tell you. And what I came out of that rabbit hole with was a double cappuccino, half calf, non-fat milk, with just enough foam to be aesthetically pleasing, but not so much that it leaves a mustache.
That's so funny. I would not put Lewis and Ace together.
Really?
But maybe that's because I know what I know.
Do you know all of Suits? Have you watched the whole thing?
I haven't watched it, but Jesse watched it. And, like, when we lived with two other guys, they all watched it. So I've seen, like, enough to know the characters and everything that happens. So I won't be watching it because it's just, there's no fun in that. It's a great show.
We're really enjoying it.
Jesse and his friend watched it so fast. They, like, binged it. Like, we're on season 4 before I could even process.
Wow.
Dang, it was crazy.
But, well, like I said, and that's why I said, like, I'm only on the beginning of season 2.
Yeah.
I literally think we're on season 2, episode 3. So
it's really funny.
That's where we're at right now.
Interesting. Okay. For Ace, I said an iced Americano with a very, very small splash of cream. And I said the cream only because it gives that beautiful illusion that's like the cream going slowly down. For Braxton, what'd you put?
I put a Snickerdoodle protein shake.
Ooh.
Because I feel like he's like in the gym all the time, but I think he's really just like a big softie.
I like that.
Yeah. So he goes for the Snickerdoodle.
That's a great call out. I was stuck between just a plain black cold brew because a lot of gym bros at Starbucks would come in and just get a plain black cold brew and add it to their protein shake, or a plain black coffee. So I ended up going for a plain black coffee.
Gotcha.
Because it was colder in the Whispers, so I think he would have chose that.
Smart.
Sadie.
Okay, you're gonna laugh. I chose a chamomile tea.
Interesting.
Do you want to know why?
Of course.
So Sadie is a cloner. So one of the big things that stuck out to me when they were fighting with Sadie was that all of her clones could hurt Paedyn, which means they all were fighting individually. Now, if I could be in multiple places at once, do you know what I would be doing? I would have all of my clones be doing all of my housework, doing all of my laundry, cleaning other things, and I would be sitting in my bed with a book and a chamomile tea.
That's so fun. That's a great idea. I would love to be a cloner just for that. Like, imagine how, like, clean our houses would be.
So clean. I literally am looking at a pile of dirty laundry right now. So clean.
My door's closed, so I can't see it. For her, I chose a vanilla iced latte because I thought she would pick something basic but with a little sweetness.
Okay. Not Blair basic, but just a little basic.
Enough basic, but, like, different.
Perfect. All right, so in today's magical moments, we're going to expand a little bit and speculate on the fatal powers that we talked about earlier. And for those who didn't catch this, we got a huge info dump from Kit about like when they're all in the safe room, and Keri, you did a beautiful job summarizing this. So I'm going to do a really quick summary, just a really quick recap, is that basically Kit starts talking about the resistance and how there are more ordinaries in the city than they originally thought, and they also have elites working with them, mostly the fatals. So the fatal powers are as follows. The silencers, the mind readers, and the controllers. Now, interestingly enough, these are all powers that have to do with the mind. So silencers crush powers and can basically render you useless, which you see with like Kai when he's fighting the silencer. Micah, I believe was his name. Like we saw with Kai, like when they were fighting. So it has to do with the mind. Mind readers are pretty self-explanatory. They can read your mind. We haven't seen one of those yet. And controllers. We don't get an exact explanation here of what they are, but I'm pretty sure this would be like if someone took a hold of your mind and made them do whatever they wanted. So like think mind control.
Yeah.
We don't see one of those yet either, obviously. So I'm curious why these are labeled as, quote, fatals, though, because they're not like silencers, yes, but like I feel like it would protect the king and the kingdom to have loyal, which he does have one of each in his court that are loyal, but I feel like having more than one could be like benefit. I don't know. I'm also curious why all of these have something similar to them. So they're all a closely related power, which is like I said, the mind. Now, we have two characters who have powers that are closely related to the mind. One is Telly, which is Blair. So Blair has a power that's very closely related to these fatals.
Yeah.
The second is based on what we talked about today, Ace with his illusions, and they're targeting the mind. So I don't know if it's an actual connection or not, but it's definitely something to keep an eye on.
Yeah. And why those three instead of like illusionists and Tellys?
Yep.
Knows.
Okay. After the fight, we also get an amazing application for a couple powers. We hear about hydros for the first time. They're people who control water, and they're cleaning up the ballroom. They're basically built-in power washers. The second, we get tellies, which we've learned a lot about tellies already because of Blair, but they're clearing the room of rubble. So, like, if you think about it, you don't really have to be strong if you can move things with your mind. So that's definitely like a benefit to having tellies around.
I would love that power. Think of all the times I've moved and how easy that would have been.
Yes, that's very true. What's interesting here, though, for me is Telly. This tells me that tellies are not a rare power. So, like, Blair is not rare.
Yeah.
Very interesting.
It's very interesting.
And then we also learn about another new power in this stretch, which are sights, and they're basically built-in cameras.
Yep. They're like the little bugs from the Hunger Games, but without having to carry all the camera equipment around.
Exactly.
Well, District 13's camera guys.
Yes. Well, that's it for our magical moments today. That was a doozy of an episode, ladies and gentlemen. If you stayed to this point in time, thank you for listening to us go on and on and on. But if you liked today's episode, please rate and review us wherever you listen. Make sure if you're watching on YouTube to hit that like and subscribe button. Also, the best thing you can do for us is share us with your friends. So if you liked today's episode, if you're liking our summary or our recap of Powerless, please share us with your friends, especially since Reckless comes out very soon. We're going to continue onto our Reckless coverage as well.
And then for more content, make sure to follow us on Instagram and TikTok at Tomes and Tropes Pod. Or if you have thoughts about this episode or this book, email us at tomesandtropespod@gmail.com. We'd love to hear your thoughts on Powerless so far, and we'll see you next week when we go into chapters 31 through 40.
Stay curious and keep reading.
Bye.